Alright guys, as promised, I'm going to do an alternate version of a design with this very same template, and this time we're going to do a mermaid design instead of a football and photo design. So these elements are ready to design. I haven't come up with the design already, so you're watching this pretty much in real time. So let's grab some of these elements and replace some of the elements in our template. Now what I'm going to do right now is go ahead and take off my mock-up and replace my labels. And I'm going to view my editable graphics. So this one should be named merged graphics. And then you'll see from this point how we'll replace these. So let me go ahead, file, I'm going to save as a different name. So that I can come back in all of these elements that I did for the sport. So the one that you will be purchasing will more than likely look like this one. But I'm going to show you if you were doing your own layout, grabbing your own images, how we can turn this into a completely different design. Alright, and what I'm going to do for this front is take off the fill color. So I just brought the fill down to 0% so that it won't have that tint. I had that on before just because I wanted to make sure I was not designing outside of that area, but it should still keep my outline on there. The file's still saving, so give it just a moment. Alright, so let me double click on this and see what's going on with my shape. Oh, it doesn't have a stroke on it. Let me add a stroke. There we go. And now I can see the stroke, but no fill. Good deal. Right, now the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and bring in whatever my front image is going to be so that I do have some sort of color scheme to go by. And I'm going to pick, this one is really pretty with all the shells in her hair. I'm going to go with that one. And I'll even show you how to modify some of the colors. If you don't like the colors that it comes in, you can do some color overlay. Now when I brought it into this labels group. Of course that's not where we want it, so let me go ahead and collapse the labels group. I want this in my editable graphics. So when you first start out, everything is going to be done in your editable graphics. So I'll bring this down into my front center folder. Now if you have already saved this, then you don't need all the other things that are in this front center folder. So I'm going to go ahead and delete it for the sake of making this a smaller file, especially as I'm recording and saving. And then this image here is the typical tiger, so I have that deleted now. And what I'll do as I add my elements, I will clean up each of these folders. Alright, so now what you want to do when you're designing for the front, Zoom in a little bit and make sure that you're not getting too close to the edge of your 13 by 19 paper so you don't have to see any harsh lines cut off. And we have plenty of room to play with as far as additional design, and we're going to do that later, but I want to focus on if you were just changing out the design elements, how quick that could go. So let's do the abstract aurora design. Now what's going to happen when we double click this, we're going to need some color reference. So I'm going to use my mermaid as a color reference. So again, I'm going to drag this window down just a little bit so that I can view both windows at one time. I'm going to grab my mermaid and drag her onto this scene. Now what's interesting here is that you don't have to just go with these colors. I'm actually going to add some of the design elements in here. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit on this one. And as a matter of fact, let's put it back into the main window so you can still see your layers panel. Now as it stands, we do have some purples, but I think I'm liking the teals better for this. So I'm going to go to top aurora, bottom is the one with the purple, and instead of a color overlay, I'm going to do a gradient. So I'm going to take the color overlay off, do a gradient overlay, and we'll choose, let's start with the pink, and if it's not an intense enough pink, you can always modify it. I'm moving more towards the reds because I don't like for my pinks to start out purple. We're going to get towards purple anyhow. And if you drag your color picker, you're sure to get some different colors on here too. So that is a little more of a purpley pink. And then we're going to actually choose a purple from the same image. I'm liking more of this duller lavender purple. And if I can't pick it with my color picker, I will make it. Okay, there it goes. All right, let's see what else. We want to grab some of this teal or aqua and mint color. It's a little bit of teal right there. And as you can see, instead of just a solid color, we have created our own gradient. Now we can hit new right here and it will save that. And I'm just going to drag it up here. Normally it saves it right there. Then this way, the next time we want to do a gradient, we can just refer to this one we just created. And let's see for the abstract, kind of paint splashes in the back. Instead of paint splashes just being the solid color, let's see if, I think I downloaded a mermaid, like a kind of a mermaid scale background. So I want to show you that you can use images. You don't just have to use colors, and you can use gradients as well. And if the colors are a little bit off, we can adjust them. So, or you know what I'll do? I will save the scales for doing instead of the gradient. So we'll do the scales instead of the gradient. So we'll stick with color here to keep this one simple. So for color, let's choose one of the pretty sea glass colors. We'll say okay. And the reason why this is more of a mint green is because if you recall the last one we did, it had the color overlay of the yellow underneath it. So we copy and paste the layer style. And the only reason why I have two of these layers here is because it gives it a little more opacity. If you want it to look more watercolor and watery, then just do one layer. And I think this one will just do one because I want to really see the scales pop up in the background. And this one, we probably don't want to have so much black and dark colors because we want to keep this one light and on the mermaid theme. So let's see about doing maybe a glitter. So let's do a gold glitter. And we'll do that probably for the front color splashes. Gold glitter, and this is where you just use your Google resources and try to find something with, go to your tools, size large, find something with a high resolution. And also try to find something that's not licensed and watermarked and all of that good stuff. A lot of times you will find fabric swatches, and those little fabric swatches or wallpapers. And this one is watermarked. You can barely see it, so in this particular case you wouldn't really be able to tell, but I'd rather not chance it and use it. All of these are, there we go. So here's some Sizer heat transfer glitter, and let's see if this is a good enough resolution to play with. It's decent. Save image as. And what I will most likely do for this one is go ahead and open it up in Photoshop first because it has this weird border around it, and I would just go ahead and crop it so that if I do want to tile this glitter, I don't have to worry about trying to bypass that border. Alright, I'm going to hit enter now. That has cropped it. You can close out. I'm going to tell it yes, I want to save. I have to right click and flatten the image so that it believes it is a JPEG still. So when I hit save, and it believes it's a JPEG. I'm going to go ahead and close out of these windows. And now we'll grab our gold glitter and drag it onto the surface here. And then we'll figure out where we want it to crop into. Right click, create a clipping mask. Excuse me. And as you can see now, instead of a watercolor color, we have glitter watercolor. So this kind of reminds you of when you have the translucent glitter. It doesn't have to be so opaque and noticeable. It just gives it a little bit of design flair. So what I'm doing is I'm holding down Alt and I'm duplicating this glitter layer so that I make sure that I cover all of that color in the background, which initially was black. Alright, so now let's go to, we have another color. What's this one? So this black, we can right click on the effects and we can do a color overlay, or we can do another gradient. And I'm going to show you what the difference is here. Let's try the gradient. And let's choose the one that we created earlier. And right now it's the same exact orientation as our aurora. So it is pretty much blending in with it. But we can change the angle. We can actually change the color. Let's say I wanted to not have so much of the greens and blues and just have the pink and the purple, and maybe I even want to give it a little bit darker purple in this layer. And I'm going to give it a 90-degree angle. Bring my scale in. And I can even reverse the gradient so that the purple starts in a different area from where the purple of the last gradient was. So, didn't come in here with any clear intention, but I think that works well. And again, since we don't need her for anything but reference, I'm going to delete the mermaid off of this layer. Let's exit and make sure you say yes, you're going to save those changes. Those changes will propagate onto your main template. And see it's saying that it's updating the smart objects. So everywhere that we had the purple and gold abstract image, this is now going to update. Alright, so immediately we have a mermaid design. How cool is that? Alright, so let's say, as a matter of fact, let us take our mermaid and let's make her the mascot, because basically I'll show you how you can get all of these mascots to update. So we'll grab mermaid 3 and well, right now let's select our mascot, any of the mascots, double click on it, and it will allow you to modify the smart object. There we go. And now we want the smart object to be the mermaid. So literally you can go grab the mermaid from your original source, which is what I would suggest. And of course, I didn't have that as my main window open. So let's try that again. Pull mermaid and onto Photoshop artboard, and it should automatically size. Hit enter. And like I said, if you have already did your save as, you can go ahead and delete some of these other elements so that you don't just have this huge file. Say yes. Okay, so now you see everywhere that you had the mascot, it is now changed to a mermaid. Cool stuff. Let's say this is a birthday shirt, so maybe you do still want the number on there. Maybe the Little Mermaid is turning, let's say 6, so that we can use a youth style shirt. And then I'll show you how you can create your own substrate. You don't have to have these ready to go. Let's see, so let's click the number, right click on the number, double click, and we'll even change the font more than likely. So let's double click on the number, change it to 7, and this is more of an athletic look. Let's say we wanted to go with let's see what font. I don't think I like the graffiti font for this one. Let's find something really bold but still cute. Okay, so this is my Living 90s font. If you remember the show Living Single, this font was created based on that type of 90s vibe. So I'm going to update, and hopefully I pressed yes. And let's go ahead and Control S and save, because I think I was moving faster than my computer and I almost closed out of the main file. So Control S, or you can go to File, Save. So although this 7 is cute, I think I want to do a little something different to it. We're going to put the scales inside of it. So let's double click on that number. And I also want to Control T to resize this so that it is a little bit bigger. The font before pretty much stretched from top to bottom on here, so we're just going to keep that consistent. And then the scales that I was telling you about. The only thing about these scales is that there's not a lot of purple in there, so we're going to go ahead and open up the image, kind of create a little bit of purple in there. And this will be all on the fly as well. So let's see if we can achieve it with a layer, new adjustment layer, hue saturation. And we'll go with our reds, and let's just see what happens when we change our reds. If we automatically get a little more pink and purple, that would be great. If not, we can always paint our colors in and change how they work. I'm not liking how it's changing my gold glitter. So let's go back to 0 here. And let's see if we can change the magentas. There's barely any magenta in here. It's primarily red. So I'll take the saturation down for magenta, and I'll go back to my red, and we'll do a little bit of increase in saturation and just shift the color just a little bit until we get those reds closer to pinks and purples. There we go. Now I'm going to bring the saturation down because I don't want it to be heavily saturated. I just want to have like a little tint of color. And I'm going to right click and merge that down. But I'm going to make sure that I save this as a different file. So that I'm not saving over my original. So now I have my duplicate version that has a little more pink and purple in it. I'm going to right click and create a clipping mask. Well, I don't see it at this very moment. So I'm going to double click on my effects. I'll go to my blending options, tell it to blend interior as a group, and layer mask hides effects, and the vector mask hides effects also. Right now I've got a color overlay. I'm going to take that off. And immediately you see that the pattern that we have is clipped here. I need to unlock here. I'm going to end up taking the color overlay off, but I'm going to do a gradient overlay instead. And the blend mode is going to be normal. And I'm going to fade it from one color to no color at all, or transparent. I'm going to reverse it so it goes from the bottom to the top. And the color that I want to choose, we'll select that color stop, and as a matter of fact, let's go by our gradient that we created. And I'll show you how you can take a gradient that you already created, and then what we'll do is create a new color stop here. And at this color stop, we're going to change the opacity to 0. So this way you get the best of both worlds. You get your opacity and your gradient color. And we can even pull this back so that it becomes fully transparent sooner than later. Alright, so maybe that was a lot of extra for nothing. Oh, the outline, since we're going with the whole mermaid colors and the golds, let's do the stroke. And let's do a gold gradient for the stroke. And if you don't already have this created, just kind of screenshot what this looks like right now and replicate this. Choose you a light Vegas gold, a dark brown, a light beige, etc. And just make your own gold tones. And as you can see, I have created several different gold tone gradients. And each of these, I even combine them and use them too. As a matter of fact, let me show you what it looks like when you combine them. That one, let's say that. The second stroke is white. I'm going to add another stroke, so instead of the white, I'm going to go gradient. And then I'm going to choose a different gold gradient than I did from before. And what it looks like it's 3D and beveled a little bit. And that's one of my tricks for making something gold, or anytime I make something look like it's 3D and gold, like it's jewelry, I do several different strokes. And then I change the thickness of the strokes, and then I use different gradients to kind of give me that effect. And I'm gonna get my white stroke back because I really do like when it has that white around it. It makes it pop. Alright, so let's exit. As a matter of fact, before I exit, I'm going to copy this layer style because I think I'm going to use the same layer style and effect for the name that we put on the front. And now we can see it doesn't pop out as much, so let me add a drop shadow, a more intense drop shadow. See, right now the opacity is all the way down. Let's bring it up. And this will make it pop off of the background. And when you do something like this, you don't want the canvas to be cutting off your glow from your shadow. So we're going to go to Image, Canvas Size, and let's increase the canvas size a little bit so that we have some area to run off of. This will not affect the sizing on your main image. It just increases the canvas area. Now if you were to go to image size and change that, it would affect the size here. So now that number pops off a little bit more, and I did not intend to move that 7. So we're just going to put her back. And that works. Now, instead of the juice man, let's edit the name for the front. And I'm going to name this one Emma, after one of my favorite people in the whole wide world. So let's take name 2, which would be Juice Man, and we can delete it. We don't have a second word on this one. And if I wanted a second word, then I would always copy what I'm editing right now. So name 1, remember we copied the layer style. Let's go ahead and paste that layer style before I forget. And of course it looks a little funky right now, but we're going to change that. Let's put the name as big as possible. Now I do have something against putting names on children's clothing, especially if they're going to be, at school by themselves or that sort of thing, but this is a personal preference. I just know it can be a security risk, so I'm not encouraging that for everyday wear clothing, but this would be like a birthday shirt or something to that effect. Alright, so let's look at placing the scale image inside of this one. Now this is not a smart object because we only have one instance of it, so it doesn't make sense to make it a smart object. We're going to go to our folder, grab our image, and drop it right on top of the text. That of course is going to look like a big square right now. We'll right click and create a clipping mask. And of course it clips inside of the text. We'll Control T. And I'm thinking the scale of this needs to be reduced drastically so that we can see that it has scales. And see how it saved our layer effects where we have that transparency that goes from the bottom to the top. And I'm going to Alt and drag the print there so I have 2 copies actually clipped in there. And then if I need to, I can select both, Control T, bring that size down a little bit if I wanted to see more of the scale. If you hold down Shift, you can disproportionately stretch it, which I don't recommend, but I do have to do it from time to time. And then from here, I would probably modify my text a little bit because now that my words are bigger, the stroke looks a little too overwhelming, and I'm going to add an additional stroke and maybe put a color there so that it really outlines this text, because the name you want to stand out more than the number. So for this one, let's do, matter of fact, we could stick with the gradient. The black really does make it pop. I don't know if the gradient's going to be what we want here. Let's check it. It does look pretty. I'm going to take the stroke down a little bit so I can still see my gold behind it. And I'm definitely going to change the font. Let's see if this looks right with my Living 90s font. Oh, it's cute. Let me see if I do all caps. Yeah, I think I like the all caps. And again, I think I'm going to modify the drop shadow here a little bit, give it a little more opacity. And I don't know why I like outlining my text in white. It just, to me, makes it look like a sticker, and I kind of fell for that technique a few years ago, and it's stuck with me since then. I'm just going to say okay from here. We could play with this all day and make it look any way that we like, but I just want to make sure that I'm showing you how you can take these same templates and make things that are unrelated. Okay, so we have some sleeve prints here for long sleeve shirt. We have some socks, the sides of the hood, and if of course for this one we're not doing hoods and we wouldn't be creating the sides for the hood there. And there's a headband. You may want to create little headbands there. And for this one, what I'm going to do for the gradient, it doesn't have to just be color, so I'm going to double click on my gradient. It's a smart object, and instead of the color overlay, and it really doesn't matter if this is on right now, we're going to drag our mermaid scales on top. And I'll hit enter just to lock it in. And what we're going to do is right click and create a clipping mask. Right now I don't see it because of the color overlay. But if I double click on my blending options, I believe I can turn that on, turn my color overlay off. And I'm going to Alt click and drag. And what I don't want to do is I don't want to see the line. This is also not necessarily a tileable pattern, but you want to get to where it at least looks like it's tiled. And here is a technique where you can add a layer mask here and take your gradient tool. You see this hard edge right here? Let's go up to the hard edge and we're going to pull till we get to the next scale. Let's make sure we have the right gradient selected. So we want to go from solid to transparent. That's what we want to have selected right now. And then we want to make sure that we're on this layer mask layer. There we go. So all I did was, and I'll take the other layer off, instead of a hard edge there, you have a very soft faded edge. And I also held down the shift key. So I'm going to undo it for a second. I held down the shift key so that I stay on this 90-degree angle. If I did not have the shift key held down, I can go at any angle I want, and it kind of creates a disaster. Sometimes you want that effect, most times you don't. So I'm going to start at this edge, hold down shift, pull it, and now I have a very soft lead off from the last position. Click on my move tool, move this a little bit to where I feel like it looks like it's not apparent, and then now I'm going to grab the scale that has the fade off, Alt click and drag. There we go. And this thing is way longer than it needs to be. We'll go ahead and fill it out just for kicks and giggles. But it really doesn't need to be that long. So now that we have 3 of them, instead of doing one little tile at a time, I can Alt select all 3 of those. And voila. And then some of these are of course running off that I don't need. Well, I guess I did need that one. Alright, so let's save and see how this looks instead of the solid color gradient. Now mind you, I have not tested this out yet, so if it looks crazy, I will tell you I think it looks crazy. Alright, that's actually pretty cool. Now this would be for the bottom of the sleeves. I think that would look really nice for the bottom of the sleeves. It looks nice for the bottom hem. The headband got really mushed, and it's because it was originally a color that went left to right. More than likely, this is going to be girls setup, and for the girls, they typically do the headbands that are pre-sewn. So you would need this part of the headband anyway. That's for the athletic tie-up headbands. But if you did want to do the tie-up headband for the girls, which maybe they'll tie them in the front, you want to change this. So let's do here. And I want to show you something. Although this is a smart object, and I double clicked it in order to change the image, if I no longer want this to be the same smart object, I can right click. Now I'm going to keep this one here just for future purposes, but I'm going to right click and go to new smart object via copy. And now all of a sudden it is its own smart object, and it does not have the same parent that these have. So let's, just for demonstrative purposes, let me leave that one alone. We'll double click the copy. Now there was an option to copy it or duplicate it, but also the option to copy it via smart object copy. So let's just say we want to keep the same look, but change the orientation. I'm trying to see what would look best. It fading from left to right still, or top to bottom. Let's just go ahead and crop this. Gotta find our cropping tool. There we go. And we're gonna crop the sides of it. And we'll go ahead and close out of this and say yes. And automatically we're going to see it update, and it will look different than the previous one. I'm going to turn off this one. And now what we can do is Control T, and we can go ahead and stretch it. We have to hold down Shift though, because we're stretching it disproportionately. But now you see we have the option to go back to the original one that has the same parent as all of these, and then we also created a whole nother instance because it just looked better for this particular time. Now for the hood sides, we don't have a hood side, or maybe you do. I don't know if you want to use this one for a hood or not. If so, you would just change out these words here. So we'll go to our editable graphics layer, hood design, accents, print, and we'll just turn that layer off because there's no need to preview it if we're not going to be printing it. And that's simple enough, but I'm also going to throw a little curveball in there because this particular design comes with all of these really cool elements. So I'm gonna throw some of these into the mix here. And what I'll do is I will put them onto my Aurora layer. So that's my abstract design. Double click. Now the thing that you have to be aware of is when you're doing this as a sock design or anything else that is going to go vertical, that the way that you design and orient your images has to also be able to display vertically. So that's definitely possible if I'm using some of these elements that it really doesn't matter. As a matter of fact, let's just select several of them. See, we got a jellyfish, some coral reef, a few shells, starfish, and the problem is going to be the seahorse and the turtle. So what I'll do, I'll save the seahorse and the turtle for the main body image. Alright, so I have multiple files selected. I'm going to drag it right onto my Photoshop artboard, hit enter. Right, so from here, what I would do instead of just straight up orienting all of these, straight vertically, I'm going to get a little bit of placement going on first, and then I will turn them to where it's more like a pattern. So I'm going to rotate. Of course, rotating the starfish isn't going to do anything. But the idea is that you're just creating a really fun collaboration of design from whatever elements that you have. Okay, so that was a coral, but I have some sand dollar. And then maybe I'll put teal on top of purple. Now this coral is really hard to catch, so I'm going to zoom in. I have to right click exactly on something that touches. And because it's so hard to see, what I may do is add a little bit of a drop shadow to it. And it didn't do much, but it's definitely more visible now. Alright. Now the jellyfish has a little orientation too, so that might be something you don't want to put on there. Yeah, let's take jellyfish off. Even though it's pretty, that might be one of the ones I add to the body instead. And let's make sure that everything has a chance to be viewed. There's a little gold shell over there that has the same issue as the coral here. So I'm going to right click, copy that layer style, and paste it on that shell. Only so it sticks out a little bit more. Or what we can do, instead of having the drop shadow be black, I'm going to make it white so that you can't see it there. So it just gives it a little bit of contrast between the foreground and background. I think the black shadow makes it pop out more, but it's looking a little too heavy for me. And that's all personal preference. Zoom in so I can catch it. Right click, Coral 9, drop shadow. Just make it white. 100% opacity. And just gives it a little kick there. Alright, so if we save this and say yes. Oh, there was another shell underneath that one. Let's see, we can move it around as soon as this updates. First, let's see if we even like it. Yeah, I think I do like it. And what I'll do is move one of these shells because these are a little less visible. So I'll switch those out and we'll expose that shell there. And that looks like it's going to be a wrap. That little shell right there that's hiding. So grab it. And then the coral. Oh, there was another shell there. Got shells all over the place. And let's take this. There. That shell. And you can spend all day playing with this. I don't suggest you do, but you can. It's so hard to get this coral right here. And I'm trying to stay zoomed out because a lot of times if you zoom in too much, you don't really get the bigger picture of what something's going to look like. So you end up overdoing it a little bit. And I'm going to take the gold coral and the sea glass coral, just move it to the bottom layer so it's not sitting on top of anything. And I think I'm good with that. We'll see in just a minute. Oh, I know what. Before I do that, I'm gonna hit cancel. I want to change my shell orientation so it doesn't always feel like that is the top. So I might change one, rotate it 45, the other rotate maybe negative 45, and I should get a little difference there. Now here's the only difference. You're going to tile this, so you have to make sure that you are exactly on when you tile this. Unlike if it was just the abstract paint splashes, you can get away with it not necessarily being exactly matched up. But at least you don't have to match up 12 pieces of paper. This is just still 2 sheets, so it should be fairly easy to match it up. And that is that. I might also take my abstract aurora design and let's see what happens if I multiply it. Let me see how I want it to play on top of. Oh, that's cool. The dissolve. I almost never like the dissolve effect, but I guess because we're dealing in the glitters, it actually looked kind of cute to me. And I'm just playing with some of the blend modes here, seeing if I want the abstract design to have a blend with the underneath image or if I just want it to lay right on top. And I'm thinking because it has the glitter, I like it better as the normal blend mode. Alright, so other than if it had a headband here, and you see too that with the smart object that this has, well, this will work out. We can control T for the headband design here, and this will be more of a pulled in design here for the girls' headbands because you can only do half at a time. And where it says tigers, now this is a smart object where the tigers is because it happens more than once, so it will update every area that you have the tigers. I'm just gonna remove it because I think as a girl's headband this will be pretty just with the print and not the name. So you see that you can adjust these templates however you want to use them. I'm looking for the text for the headband. I'll take that off and And if we had other areas of the headband, let's say it was a tie headband, then maybe we want to use this graphic so it would contrast with our main graphic here. And that's it. Oh yeah, I lied. I said I was going to put some of the elements on there. Let's see. I'm going to move this over to my other screen so I can see what I'm dragging over, but you've seen some of the elements here. And as long as we stay within this 13 by 19, we're good. Let's do... Let's bring the mermaid. I'm going to hold down shift so that I can also select the name. I'm going to bring it up a little bit. So that we can add some of the friends in there. So I'm going to add a jellyfish. It says watercorn. I guess it's because it's a unicorn. And turtle corn. There's a mercat. So we'll drag those on. Oh, you know what I did? Let me undo. And this is a good lesson too. When you have something with a clipping mask on it, I'm going to undo this. And we can redo our last move. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and select on top of this because I don't want whatever I drag in to drag between my clipping mask. And that's what just happened. So when I do it this way, you can see the difference. It dragged outside of that clipping group. All right, so we'll take Jellyfish. Which, am I even selecting it? Jellyfish. Control T. Let's make it a little bit bigger. Bring it to underneath the mermaid. Then the watercorn is definitely one of those up front elements. Turtle. Maybe turtle to the back. And I know Emma would love this cat as a mermaid. Mercat. Alright, mercat. Control T. I'm going to transform and make it a little smaller. Turtle will make it a little smaller too. And then if you wanted to continue filling out this space, then maybe we take a paint splash, go ahead and do a new layer here, put it behind the characters, and let's choose one of our splash color brushes here. And we'll right click, bring the size down just a little. And right now it's going to be black because that's the color we had selected default. We just stamped one time on there. And then we can do an effect, color overlay. Let's choose one of these really pretty light colors. Here we go. And then let's contrast it by doing a new layer, and this one will go underneath. Let's also do a color overlay. Well, we'll do a color overlay afterwards so I can show you what it looks like. Let's choose a different paint splatter this time. And we might have to resize it, so let's see. Definitely have to bring it in a little bit. Paint splatter there. Of course it's black. Let us do a color overlay. And this one I'm thinking we'll do purple. I might even do that dark purple. Yes, I like that. And let's just say OK. Control T allows us to transform it, make it a little bit bigger. Just keep in mind you want to stay inside of this 13 by 19 box that we created for ourselves. And we could have taken a little more time and play with things a little bit more. I'm thinking this is good to go though. It would definitely be more than what people may be expecting. So that's it. So that's the mermaid version, and I'm going to post this as a separate tutorial for the same template. Just letting you guys know you can take someone's Snapchat filter photo. It can be a cutesy photo. It could be a no photo at all. Straight up artwork like this one is. You can do a combination of the two. You can actually take this mermaid out and maybe put a photo of the little one on here. So now it's a birthday slash everyday shirt because they would love something like that. Alrighty guys, I'm gonna go work on some renovation stuff because I'm all over the place, but I did want to finally do what I said I was gonna do and give you guys the template that's going to be uploaded for purchase. But I've also shown you how you can create this entire thing. There is a 3-part video on how to create your entire template from ground zero, including taking the photo of the shirt or the hoodie like I did for this particular case. So I would encourage you to watch those other videos because it tells you, the one I did right before this tells you if you have long sleeves and you want to apply this to the mock-up, etc., to the hoodie sides if you wanted to reactivate that and show that. All of those things are on the previous one. So you guys let me know if you have any questions or you have any input of what we could design together next. Definitely here for the suggestions. Alright guys, until next time, peace and love. I'll check you later.